The stars looked the same as always, but Captain Jake Miller knew something was wrong. His ship, the USS Liberty, had been traveling through space for 3 months when they found it. A strange vessel floating near the edge of the Kepler 442 system, dark and silent like a dead whale in an ocean of stars. Jake stood on the bridge of his ship looking at the alien craft on the main screen. It was unlike anything humans had ever built. The ship seemed to twist and bend in ways that hurt his eyes to look at. Its surface was black as midnight, but sometimes silver lines would flash across it like lightning. "Captain, we're getting no response to our signals," said Alex Rodriguez from his seat at the communications station. Alex was young, maybe 25, with dark hair and nervous hands that always moved when he was worried. "But the ship is definitely active. I'm reading power signatures unlike anything in our databases." Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her science station. She was a smart woman in her 30s who had studied alien life for most of her career, even though they had never found any before today. "Sir, the materials that ship is made from, they don't match anything we know. Some of the readings don't even make sense." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was it. First contact with alien life. Everything humans had dreamed about for hundreds of years was happening right now, and he was in charge of it. The weight of that responsibility sat heavy on his shoulders. "Any signs of weapons?" Jake asked. "None that I can detect," Lisa answered. "But then again, their technology is so advanced that I might not even recognize a weapon if I saw one." Jake walked closer to the main screen. The alien ship was huge, maybe twice the size of the Liberty. It had no lights that he could see, but it seemed to glow with its own dark energy. Just looking at it made him feel strange, like he was seeing something that shouldn't exist. "Captain," Alex said, his voice shaking a little. "I'm getting something. It's not a radio signal, I don't know what it is. It's going straight into our computers somehow." "What does it say?" Jake asked. Alex looked confused as he read from his screen. "It says, 'Human vessel, prepare to receive diplomatic envoy. Do not resist. Do not attempt to scan our representative. Your survival depends on following these instructions exactly." The bridge went quiet. Jake could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines and the quiet beeping of computers. Everyone was looking at him, waiting for orders. "Sir," said security, Chief Kate Sullivan from her station near the back of the bridge. Kate was tough, a former military officer who had seen combat on Mars. If she was worried, Jake knew this was serious. "This could be a trap. We don't know anything about these beings or what they want." Jake thought for a moment. Humanity had been alone in the universe for as long as they could remember. They had searched the stars for decades, hoping to find someone else out there. Now they had found them, or more accurately, the aliens had found humanity. This was the most important moment in human history. "Send a response," Jake said. "Tell them we accept their envoy, but we want to meet on neutral ground. Ask if they have a docking bay." Alex typed quickly, then waited. A few seconds later, his face went pale. "Captain, they say they don't dock with other ships. They want us to come aboard their vessel. And, sir, they say only 3 humans may come. More than that and—" He stopped reading. "And what?" Jake demanded. "And our minds won't be able to handle what we see," Alex finished quietly. Dr. Carter stood up from her station. "Captain, I volunteer to go. This is the greatest scientific discovery in human history. We have to take the risk." "I'm going too," Jake said. "This is too important to send others in my place." Kate shook her head. "Sir, as security chief, I strongly advise against this. We know nothing about these aliens or their intentions. That's exactly why we need to go, Jake replied. Alex, you're coming with us. We'll need someone who can handle communications if their technology is different from ours. Alex looked terrified, but nodded. Yes, sir. 20 minutes later, Jake, Lisa, and Alex stood in the Liberty's shuttle bay, wearing their best dress, uniforms, and carrying basic translation equipment. They had no weapons. The aliens had specifically requested they come unarmed. As their small shuttle approached the alien ship, Jake watched through the front window. Up close, the vessel looked even stranger. The surface seemed to move and shift like it was alive. Sometimes he thought he saw patterns in the metal, like writing in a language that changed even as he watched it. Docking bay opening, Alex reported. His voice was steady now, though Jake could see sweat on his forehead. The opening that appeared in the alien ship was perfectly round and glowed with soft blue light. Their shuttle passed through what felt like a barrier of warm water, and suddenly they were inside. The docking bay was enormous and empty except for their small shuttle. The walls curved in impossible ways, and the lighting seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Jake felt dizzy just looking around. Atmosphere is breathable, Lisa said, checking her instruments. Temperature is comfortable, but Captain, the gravity in here, it's not consistent. It feels like it's pulling in different directions at the same time. As they stepped out of the shuttle, Jake saw her. The alien stood at the far end of the docking bay, waiting for them. She looked almost human, but not quite. She was tall and elegant, with pale skin and silver hair that moved like it was underwater. Her eyes were completely black, with no white showing at all. "Welcome," she said, and her voice seemed to come from inside their heads rather than through the air. "I am Commander Zara Veth of the Valdari Empire. I have been waiting a long time to meet your species." Jake stepped forward, trying to ignore how strange everything felt. The floor seemed solid under his feet, but his eyes told him he was walking on something that bent and twisted. "I'm Captain Jake Miller of the human vessel Liberty," he said. "We're honored to meet you, Commander Veth." Zara studied him with those black eyes. "Honored," she repeated, like she was tasting the word. "Humans use that word often, I have observed. You feel honor even when facing the unknown." "Yes," Jake said simply. "We believe some things are worth the risk." For the first time, something that might have been a smile crossed Zara's face. But it was not a human smile, and it made Jake's skin feel cold. "How very interesting," she said. "Come. We have much to discuss, and very little time. Your people are in great danger, Captain Miller, though they do not yet know it." Zara led them through corridors that made no sense. The walls curved up and around until Jake felt like he was walking on the ceiling, but his feet never left what felt like the floor. The lighting changed colors as they walked, shifting from blue to green to a deep purple that made his eyes water. "Your ship is very advanced," Dr. Carter said, trying to sound calm. Jake could see her hands shaking as she held her scanning equipment. "This is not a ship," Zara replied without looking back. "It is a small piece of our home dimension, wrapped in metal and brought into your space. What you call advanced is simply how reality works where we come from." Alex stumbled as the floor beneath them suddenly felt like it was tilting, even though it looked perfectly flat. "How do you walk normally in here?" "We do not walk," Zara said. "We exist. Walking is a concept from simpler dimensions." They entered, a large room that seemed to stretch on forever in all directions. Jake knew that was impossible. The room couldn't be bigger than the ship itself, but his eyes told him it went on and on into darkness. In the center of the room was a table, with 4 chairs. The chairs looked human-made. "We made these for your comfort," Zara explained, gesturing to the chairs. "Our own furniture would not be suitable for your forms." As they sat down, Jake noticed that his chair felt completely normal, like something from Earth. It was the first normal thing he had felt since entering the alien ship. "Commander Veth," Jake began, "you said our people are in danger. What kind of danger?" Zara's black eyes looked at each of them in turn. "You have been watched, Captain Miller. For the past 50 years, we have observed your species as you reached out into space. We have seen your wars, your peace, your art, your cruelty, and your kindness. The Valdari Council has been deciding what to do about humanity." "What to do about us?" Lisa asked. "What do you mean?" "Whether to allow you to continue existing," Zara said simply. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. "You're talking about destroying our entire species? It has been done before," Zara said, and her voice carried no emotion. 17 times in the past 1,000 years. Species that proved too dangerous, too unpredictable, too likely to threaten the stability of galactic civilization. They are removed. Alex's face had gone white. "But we haven't done anything to you. We didn't even know you existed until today." "That is precisely the problem," Zara replied. "You reached for the stars without knowing what lives among them. You built weapons that could destroy planets without understanding the consequences. You spread across space like a virus, taking what you need without asking permission." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. "We explore because we want to learn. We want to meet other species and share knowledge. That's why we're here, talking to you instead of attacking." "Yes," Zara said, leaning forward slightly. "That is why I requested this meeting. Your species shows unusual traits. Most sentient beings, when they encounter something they do not understand, either flee or attack. You do neither. You try to communicate." She stood up and walked to the wall, which suddenly became transparent. Through it, Jake could see space, but not the normal space he knew. This space was full of swirling colors and shapes that moved like living things. In the distance, he could see other ships, if they were ships, that looked like they were made of light and shadow. "This is the Valdari fleet," Zara said. "We have been preparing for first contact with humanity for decades, but not the kind of contact you might hope for." "What kind of contact?" Lisa asked, though Jake could tell she was afraid of the answer. "Extermination," Zara said quietly. "Until today, that was the plan. Your species was deemed too dangerous to allow into galactic society." Jake stood up, his hands clenched into fists. "And now?" "Now I am not certain," Zara admitted. "You see, Captain Miller, there is something you must understand about the Valdari. We are not like you. We are not like any species you have ever imagined. We are something that most minds cannot comprehend without breaking." She turned back to face them, and Jake noticed that her appearance was starting to change slightly. Her skin seemed paler, and shadows moved across her face in ways that had nothing to do with the lighting in the room. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Every species we have encountered, when they see our true nature, either goes mad or dies from shock, sometimes both. We have learned to take forms that other beings can tolerate, like the one you see now, but it is not who we really are." Dr. Carter leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "What are you really?" Something that should not exist in your dimension, Zara said. Something that was changed by forces beyond your understanding. We are survivors, Captain Miller. But we are survivors of something so terrible that the very sight of us drives other beings to insanity. The room around them suddenly felt colder. Jake could see his breath now, and the shadows on the walls seemed to be moving more actively. "Show us," he said suddenly. Alex and Lisa both turned to stare at him in shock. "Captain," Lisa whispered, "did you hear what she just said?" "I heard her," Jake replied, not taking his eyes off Zara. "But I also heard her say that every other species runs or attacks when they meet something they don't understand. Maybe that's why they go mad. Maybe if someone wasn't afraid, if someone really wanted to understand." Zara had gone completely still. "Captain Miller, I do not think you comprehend what you are asking. No being has ever seen a Valdari's true form and remained sane. Many have died from the shock alone. But none of them were human," Jake said. "You said yourself that we're different, that we try to communicate instead of running or fighting. Maybe we're different in other ways, too." "The risk is too great," Zara said, but Jake could hear something new in her voice. Not fear, exactly, but something close to it. "The risk of what?" Jake asked. "Dying. Going crazy? Commander, my species has faced extinction events before. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, plagues, wars. We've survived them all. Maybe we can survive this, too." Lisa was scanning the room with her equipment, and her readings were showing things. That made no sense. Gravity that changed direction every few seconds. Temperature variations that should have torn the room apart. Energy readings that suggested the space they were in existed in more than 3 dimensions. "Captain," she said quietly, "whatever she really is, it's affecting the space around us just by being here. Reality itself is being bent." "All the more reason to understand it," Jake said. "Commander Veth, you came here to judge whether humanity deserves to live. How can you make that judgment without showing us who you really are? How can we prove we're different if you never give us the chance?" Zara was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was very soft. "In 3,000 years of existence, no one has ever asked to see our true forms. They all beg us to stay hidden, to keep our nature secret, to spare them the horror of knowing what we really are." "We're not them," Jake said simply. "No," Zara agreed. "You are not." "Very well, Captain Miller. But understand this. If you survive, what you are about to see, everything changes. For your species and for mine." The room around them began to shift and change, and Jake realized that Zara was beginning to show them something that might be the last thing they ever saw. But Zara stopped. The room, which had been shifting and changing, suddenly became still again. She stood with her back to them, her shoulders tense. "No," she said quietly. "Not yet. There are things you must know first. Things that will help. You understand why showing you my true form would be unwise." Jake felt disappointed, but also relieved. The changes in the room had been making him feel sick and dizzy. "What things?" Zara waved her hand, and the wall became a screen. Images began to appear. Pictures of space, but not any space Jake recognized. The stars were wrong colors, and there were shapes floating between them that looked like they were alive. "This is where the Valdari come from," Zara said. "Our home dimension, or rather where we came from before we were forced to flee. The Images showed cities that stretched across entire moons, with buildings that seemed to grow like trees. The beings living in these cities looked almost human, but beautiful in a way that made Jake's chest hurt to look at them. "You were beautiful," Lisa whispered. "We were young," Zara corrected. "We thought we understood the universe. We thought we were safe in our corner of reality. We were wrong." The images changed. Now they showed the same cities, but something was wrong. The buildings were twisted and broken. The beautiful beings were running, screaming, their faces showing terror beyond anything Jake had ever seen. "What happened?" Alex asked. "They came," Zara said simply. "Beings from outside reality itself. Things that exist in the spaces between dimensions. We called them the Devourers. Though they had no name for themselves, they consumed everything. Matter, energy, thought, soul, entire worlds would simply stop existing." The images showed battles that made no sense. Ships fighting things that looked like living shadows. Weapons that fired beams of light that seemed to bend space itself. And through it all, the Devourers kept coming, unstoppable and endless. "We fought for 1,000 years, Zara continued. "We threw everything we had at them. Our greatest warriors, our most powerful weapons, our most brilliant minds. Nothing worked. They were too alien, too powerful, too other." Jake watched the images with growing horror. He saw entire solar systems going dark, civilizations that had existed for millions of years being erased in moments. "Then one of our scientists made a discovery," Zara said. "The Devourers could not consume something that was partially like them. If we changed ourselves, made ourselves partially exist in their dimension, we might survive. The cure was worse than the disease," Lisa said quietly. "Much worse," Zara agreed. "The process of changing ourselves, it required us to touch the same forces that had created the Devourers, to let them into our minds and bodies. Most of us died. Those who survived," she gestured at herself, "we became something new, something terrible." The images now showed the changed Valdari. Jake could only see them for brief moments before his eyes started to water and his head began to ache. They were still recognizable as the beautiful beings they had been, but wrong in every possible way. Too many angles, too many dimensions. Parts of them that existed in spaces his mind couldn't understand. "But it worked," Alex said. "Yes," Zara said. "We could fight the Devourers now. We could hurt them, drive them back. But the cost—" She was quiet for a moment. "We had saved our species by destroying what made us who we were." "What happened to the Devourers?" Jake asked. "We drove them back to the spaces between dimensions, locked them away where they could not reach normal reality. But the locks require constant watching. Someone must guard the borders, make sure they never break free again." "And that someone is you," Lisa said. "That someone is us," Zara confirmed. "For 3,000 years, we have patrolled the galaxy, watching for signs that the Devourers might return. We have encountered hundreds of species in that time. All of them took one look at what we had become and either went mad or died from terror." Jake was beginning to understand. "So you learned to stay hidden." "We learned to take forms that other beings could tolerate," Zara said. "We became the galaxy's secret guardians, watching, protecting, but never able to truly connect with those we protected." "That must be lonely," Alex said quietly. Zara turned to look at him, and for a moment, her false human appearance flickered. Jake caught a glimpse of something with too many eyes and shadows that moved independently of any light source. "Loneliness is a small price to pay for the survival of all life in the galaxy," she said. "But you're still looking for a way back," Jake said. It wasn't a question. "Every day," Zara admitted. "Our scientists work constantly to find a way to reverse what was done to us, to become ourselves again. But so far, nothing has worked." Dr. Carter had been studying her readings throughout the conversation. Now she looked up with excitement in her eyes. "Commander, may I ask you something about human biology?" "Of course. You said that every species you've encountered has gone mad or died when they see your true forms. But humans evolved differently than most species. We survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, massive climate changes. Our brains had to adapt to constant danger and stress. What if that adaptation gave us something other species don't have?" "What do you mean?" Zara asked. "Resistance to psychic trauma," Lisa explained. "Our minds might be better at handling things that don't make sense. We're used to dealing with impossible situations." Jake felt his heart beating faster. "You think we might be able to see them as they really are and survive?" "I don't know," Lisa admitted. "But it's possible. Our neural patterns are different from any other species we've discovered. More flexible, more adaptable." Zara was very still. "Dr. Carter, are you suggesting that humans might be immune to the madness that affects other species when they encounter us?" "Not immune," Lisa said carefully, "but maybe resistant, maybe able to adapt." For the first time since they had met her, Zara looked excited. "If that were true, if humans could see us as we really are and remain sane, it would change everything." "How?" Jake asked. "We have learned much about the forces that changed us," Zara explained. "Our scientists believe that if another species could observe our true forms and understand them, really understand them, not just see them briefly before dying, they might be able to help us find a way to reverse the process." "You mean cure?" "Yourselves?" Alex asked. "Return to what we were," Zara said. "Become beautiful again instead of terrible. Become people again instead of living weapons." Jake stood up. The room around them still felt wrong, still made his eyes hurt and his stomach twist, but he was getting used to it. "Commander Veth, I want to see your true form." "Captain," Lisa said, "we don't know if my theory is correct. If I'm wrong, then I'll die," Jake said simply. "But if you're right, we might be able to help an entire species find their way home." Zara looked at him for a long time. "Captain Miller, do you understand what you are asking? My true form is not just alien. It is wrong. It exists partially in dimensions your mind cannot comprehend. It embodies forces that should not exist in normal space. Even if you survive seeing it, you will never be the same. None of us are ever the same after important experiences," Jake replied. "That's how we grow." "This is not growth," Zara warned. "This is transformation. If you see me as I really am, you will understand things about the universe that no human has ever known. That knowledge will change you in ways you cannot imagine." Jake thought about that. He thought about his crew back on the Liberty, waiting for him to return. He thought about Earth and all the people living there who had no idea that aliens existed. He thought about the Devourers, locked away but still dangerous, and the Valdari, cursed to guard against them forever. "Commander," he said finally, "will it help your people?" "It might," she admitted. "Will it help protect the galaxy from the Devourers?" It could. Then show me, Jake said. Show me who you really are. The room changed again, but this time it was different. Jake felt like he was falling and flying at the same time. The walls disappeared, and suddenly they were floating in a space that existed between the normal universe and somewhere else entirely. Captain, Lisa said, her voice shaking, the readings are off the charts. Reality itself is becoming unstable. Last chance to change your mind, Zara said. Her voice sounded strange now, like it was coming from multiple directions at once. I won't change my mind, Jake said. Zara nodded. Then witnessed the price of survival. The transformation began slowly. Zara's human appearance started to fade like smoke being blown away by wind. Her pale skin became transparent, and Jake could see things moving underneath it, things that had too many joints and bent in directions that should not exist. Her silver hair grew longer and began to move on its own, reaching out like tentacles, made of starlight. Each strand seemed to be alive, and when Jake looked closely, he could see tiny eyes opening and closing along their length. Alex made a choking sound and fell to his knees, covering his face with his hands. I can't. It's too much. Look away if you need to, Jake told him, but he kept his own eyes fixed on Zara. Her face was changing now. The black eyes that had seemed strange before were multiplying, spreading across her features like drops of ink in water. Some of the eyes were larger than human eyes, some were smaller, and they were all looking in different directions at once. Dr. Carter was trying to take readings, but her equipment was sparking and smoking. The energy output is incredible, she said through gritted teeth. It's like she's existing in multiple dimensions at the same time. Zara's body began to stretch and twist. Her arms became longer and sprouted additional joints that bent in impossible ways. Her fingers split apart and reformed as something that was part hand, part claw, part tendril of living shadow. Jake felt his mind struggling to understand what he was seeing. His brain kept trying to make sense of Zara's form, to fit it into categories he understood, but it wouldn't fit. She was too complex, too alien, too wrong for human comprehension. Pain shot through his head like someone was driving, nails into his skull. He could taste blood in his mouth and realized he had bitten his tongue. His vision began to blur, and he felt like he might faint. But he didn't look away. You're beautiful, he said suddenly, surprising himself. Zara's transformation stopped. All of her many eyes turned to look at him. What did you say? You're beautiful, Jake repeated. His voice was weak and he was shaking all over, but he meant every word. Terrible and alien and completely impossible, but beautiful. That is not possible, Zara said. Her voice came from everywhere and nowhere now, like the sound of wind through broken glass. You should be screaming. You should be mad or dead. Jake tried to stand up, but his legs wouldn't support him. He remained sitting on the floor, looking up at what Zara had become. She was enormous now, filling the space around them with parts of herself that existed in dimensions he couldn't see but somehow could feel. I am screaming, he said, honestly. Inside my head, every instinct I have is telling me to run or fight or curl up in a ball and wait to die. But I'm not going to do any of those things. Why not? Zara asked. Jake thought about that. His head was pounding, and his vision kept sliding in and out of focus, but he forced himself to keep thinking. Because you're still you. Under all of this, he gestured weakly at her transformed state. You're still the person who wanted to protect the galaxy. You're still the one who's been lonely for 3,000 years. You're still Zara. Something changed in Zara's many eyes. Some of them began to show an expression Jake recognized. Surprise. "You can still see me," she said wonderingly. "Through all of this, you can still see who I am." "Yes," Jake said simply. "Doctor." Carter had managed to get one of her instruments working again. "Captain," she said excitedly, "your brain patterns are incredible. They're adapting in real time to process what you're seeing. Your neural pathways are actually restructuring themselves." "Is that bad?" Jake asked. "I don't know," Lisa admitted. "It's never been seen before. You're becoming something new." Jake looked back at Zara. Her form was stabilizing now, becoming less chaotic and more, if not understandable, then at least bearable to look at. She was still clearly alien, still clearly wrong by any normal standard, but she was also clearly alive and intelligent and aware. "How do you feel?" Zara asked him. Jake took inventory of himself. His head still hurt and he felt dizzy and weak, but he was alive. More than that, he was still thinking clearly. "Different," he said finally, "like I've learned a new way to see." "You have," Zara said. "No other being has ever adapted to our true forms. They either die immediately or go mad within moments. But you changed yourself to accommodate what you were seeing." Alex slowly uncovered his face and looked up. "Captain? Are you all right?" "I think so," Jake said. He looked at Alex and Lisa, and was surprised to see that they looked different to him now. Not changed physically, but he could see more about them somehow. He could see the courage that kept Lisa taking readings even when her equipment was failing. He could see the loyalty that made Alex stay, even though he was terrified. "What happens now?" Jake asked Zara. "Now everything changes," she replied. "Captain Miller, you have done something that should be impossible. You have seen a Valdari's true form and remained sane. More than that, you have remained yourself." "What does that mean for your people?" "It means hope," Zara said. "For the first time in 3,000 years, it means hope. If humans can perceive us as we really are, if you can study our transformed state without going mad, then perhaps you can help us find a way to become ourselves again." Jake managed to stand up, though he still felt unsteady. "And what does it mean for humanity?" "It means you are no longer facing extinction," Zara said. "A species that can do what you have just done is not dangerous to galactic civilization. You are unique." The space around them began to return to normal. The walls reappeared, and Zara slowly took her human form again. But Jake could still see traces of what she really was, shadows and extra dimensions that his changed perception could now detect. "There will be others who want to test you," Zara warned. "Other Valdari who will want to see if all humans share your resistance to our forms. There will be debates and arguments and political complications." "But no more talk of destroying us?" Jake asked. "No more talk of destroying you," Zara confirmed. Dr. Carter was helping Alex to his feet. He looked pale and shaken, but alive. "Captain," she said, "we need to get you back to the ship for medical evaluation. What happened to your brain? It needs to be studied." Jake nodded, but he was looking at Zara. "Will I see you again?" "You will see more of us than you ever imagined," she said. "This is only the beginning, Captain Miller. You have opened a door that has been closed for 3,000 years." As they prepared to leave, Jake realized that he felt different in ways that went beyond what he could see. The universe seemed bigger now, full of possibilities he had never considered. and somewhere in the back of his mind he could feel something new, a connection to spaces between the normal world and whatever lay beyond. He had looked into the abyss and seen beauty. Now he would have to live with the consequences of that choice. "Commander Veth," he said as they reached the docking bay, "thank you for trusting us." "Thank you," she replied, "for proving that trust was not misplaced." As their shuttle pulled away from the Valdari ship, Jake looked back through the window. For just a moment, he could see the ship as it really was. Not metal and technology, but something alive and impossible and wonderful. He was no longer entirely human, he realized. But he was still himself, and that, he thought, was going to have to be enough. 3 days later, the USS Liberty was surrounded by ships that shouldn't exist. Jake stood on the bridge, watching through the main screen as vessels of impossible design moved through space around them. Some looked like they were made of liquid, metal that flowed and changed shape. Others appeared to be carved from single massive crystals that caught starlight and threw it back in rainbow patterns. And in the center of the fleet was the largest ship Jake had ever seen, a black pyramid that seemed to bend space around itself. "Captain," Alex said from his communications station, "I'm receiving a message from the lead vessel. It's addressed to you personally." "Put it through," Jake said. The main screen changed to show a being that was clearly Valdari, but different from Zara. This one had kept more of its original beautiful appearance, though Jake could now see the wrongness. Underneath, the extra dimensions and impossible angles that marked what they had become. "Captain Miller," the being said, "I am Ancient Vex Thorn, speaker for the Valdari Council. We have come to witness what our commander Veth has reported." "What exactly has she reported?" Jake asked. "That a human looked upon her true form and did not die or go mad," Vex replied. "This is unprecedented. In 3,000 years, no being has accomplished such a feat." Dr. Carter looked up from her science station. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from all those ships. The space around us is becoming unstable." "Are they weapons?" Jake asked. "Unknown," Lisa replied. "But if they are, we wouldn't stand a chance." Vex seemed to hear their conversation. "We carry no weapons, Captain Miller. What you are detecting is simply the result of our presence in normal space. We exist partially outside your reality, and that creates disturbances." "What do you want from us?" Jake asked directly. "Proof," Vex said simply. "Commander Veth's report seems impossible. We must see for ourselves if humans truly possess this resistance to our nature." Jake felt his stomach tighten. "You want me to look at your true form as well?" "Not just you," Vex said. "We wish to test multiple humans. If this resistance is a trait of your entire species, it changes everything." On the bridge around him, Jake could see his crew exchanging worried glances. They had all been briefed on what had happened aboard Zara's ship, but seeing it described in a report was different from volunteering to experience it yourself. "I'll do it," said a voice from behind them. Jake turned to see Chief Engineer Ben Walsh walking onto the bridge. Ben was older than Jake, maybe 50, with gray hair and steady hands that had fixed 1,000 broken machines. "Ben, you don't understand what you're volunteering for," Jake said. "I understand enough," Ben replied. "I heard the reports. I know it's dangerous. But, Captain, if this helps humanity join the galactic community instead of being destroyed by it, then it's worth the risk." Security Chief Kate Sullivan stepped forward as well. "I volunteer too, sir. My job is to protect this ship and crew, if this is what it takes." One by one, Members of the crew stepped forward. Alex, despite his fear during the first encounter, Dr. Carter, driven by scientific curiosity, even young Lieutenant Sam Brooks from the engineering section, barely. 22 years old? We don't need everyone, Jake said, though he felt proud of his crew. Ancient Vex, would 3 or 4 humans be sufficient for your test? Yes, Vex replied. But Captain Miller, you should know, if your people fail this test, if they prove unable to withstand our forms, the Council will reconsider its decision about humanity's survival. Jake felt the weight of his species' future settling on his shoulders again. Understood. We'll come aboard your ship in 1 hour. The next hour passed quickly. Jake chose himself, Dr. Carter, Ben Walsh, and Kate Sullivan for the test. As they prepared to leave the Liberty, Jake gathered his crew in the II shuttle bay. Whatever happens, he told them, remember that we're doing this for all of humanity. Not just us, not just Earth, but every human who will ever be born. We're trying to earn them a place among the stars. The trip to the Valdari flagship was different from their first visit to Zara's ship. This vessel was so large that their shuttle felt like a small fish swimming through an ocean. The docking bay they entered was enormous, with room for hundreds of ships. Waiting for them was not just Vex, but a group of 5 Valdari. They all maintained human-like appearances, but Jake could now see through those disguises to the alien nature beneath. His changed perception showed him the extra dimensions they occupied, the way they existed partially in spaces his mind couldn't fully understand. Welcome aboard the Nexus, Vex said. Before we begin, you should know that this test will be different from what you experienced with Commander Veth. How so? Dr. Carter asked. Commander Veth revealed herself gradually, allowing you time to, adapt, Vex explained. We will show you our true forms simultaneously and without warning. It will be more intense. Jake nodded. We understand. They were led to a chamber at the heart of the massive ship. The room was perfectly spherical and seemed to be made of some kind of crystal that reflected light in impossible ways. In the center was a platform just large enough for the 4 humans to stand on. Once you are on the platform, Vex said, we will remove all illusions and show you what we truly are. If any of you cannot handle what you see, step off the platform immediately. The safety fields will protect you. The 4 humans took their positions. Jake looked at his companions, Lisa with her scientific instruments ready, Ben with his engineering, mindset focused on solving problems, Kate with her military bearing masking her nervousness. Ready? Vex asked. Ready, Jake replied. The change was instantaneous and overwhelming. All 5 Valdari revealed their true forms at once, and the chamber, filled with shapes and energies that Jake's mind struggled to process. But this time, he was better prepared. His brain, already changed by his first encounter with Zara, adapted more quickly. He could see that Ben was handling it well, his engineer's mind approaching the impossible geometries like a technical problem to be solved. Kate was struggling more, but her military training kept her focused and upright. And Dr. Carter was taking readings with shaking hands, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. Remarkable, one of the Valdari said, its voice coming from dimensions Jake couldn't see. They are all adapting. Not just adapting, said another. They are learning. Their neural patterns are becoming more complex in real time. The test continued for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Jake found himself able to see more and more of what the Valdari really were. Beings of living energy and impossible matter, shaped by forces from outside normal reality, but still recognizably alive and intelligent. When it was over and the Valdari resumed their human appearances, all 4 humans were still standing. "Incredible," Vex said. "All of you survived, all of you adapted, and none of you went mad." "How do you feel?" Jake asked his crew. "Different," Ben said, which seemed to be the standard answer. "Like I've learned a new way to think about space and matter." "Exhausted," Kate added, "but alive." "Fascinated," Dr. Carter said, checking her readings. "The energy patterns we just witnessed, they suggest technologies beyond anything we've imagined." Vex turned to Jake. "Captain Miller, the Council is prepared to make you an offer." "What kind of offer?" "Partnership," Vex said. "We will help humanity develop faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, defensive systems. We will share our knowledge of the galaxy and introduce you to other species. In return, you will help us research a cure for our condition." "A cure?" "Your people's ability to perceive our true forms without going mad means you can study us in ways no other species can," Vex explained. "Your scientists can work alongside ours to find a way to reverse what was done to us 3,000 years ago." Jake felt excitement building in his chest. "You're talking about making yourselves human again?" "Valdari again," Vex corrected. "Our original forms, before we were forced to change. We want to become beautiful instead of terrible. We want to be people again instead of living weapons. And if we can't find a cure, then we continue as we are," Vex said. "But with allies for the first time in 3 millennia, with beings who can see us as we truly are and not run in terror." Dr. Carter stepped forward. "Ancient Vex, I have to ask, are there other threats out there? Other things like the Devourers you mentioned?" "Yes," Vex said simply. "The galaxy is not a safe place, Dr. Carter. There are forces in the dark spaces between stars that would consume all life if given the chance. The Valdari have held them back for 3,000 years, but we cannot do so forever." "You need help," Kate said. "We need allies," Vex confirmed. "And now, for the first time, we have found a species that can stand beside us without fear." Jake looked at his crew, then back at Vex. "What would this partnership look like?" "Joint research stations," Vex said. "Combined fleets to patrol the galaxy's borders, shared technology and knowledge, and most importantly, friendship between our species." "Friendship," Jake repeated. "After 3,000 years of isolation, you want friendship." "More than anything else," Vex admitted, and for the first time Jake heard real emotion in the ancient being's voice. "We are tired of being alone, Captain Miller. Tired of being feared. Tired of being monsters, even if we are monsters who protect the innocent." Jake thought about Earth, billions of light years away. He thought,